Hello, guys, and welcome back. It's so good to be here with you today. And I'm excited to talk about this topic because I did a poll on my Instagram stories yesterday, and that kind of prompted me to be like, this is something that we need to talk about. And so the question I asked was just like, how are you feeling? How do you feel right now in this moment about your business, about life? Like, how are you feeling? And I had a couple of options there. And I was actually taken aback by how many people responded that they are feeling overwhelmed. And so today we're going to talk about, if you're feeling overwhelmed in your business, listen to this episode. We're going to be diving into like how to identify where that's coming from and then what you can actually go and do about that. Because I always like to give you tangible action-packed things that you can go and actually implement and start seeing results in your business and in your life with. So we're going to be talking about that today. You're definitely going to want your notebooks. I always say that, but like today is one of those days that like don't just listen and be like, yeah, but actually go get your notebook, grab your cup of tea, get cozy, get your blanket, get your emotional support blanket, whatever it is that you need. And let's dive in. Let's talk about this topic. Let's talk about what's coming up for you. And let's work through it instead of just accepting that like we're in this state of overwhelm nonstop, because that's not a fun place to build a business from. It's not a fun place to live in. And so what I've really noticed is that feeling overwhelmed as a small business owner, as a jewelry business owner, especially, is way something that way too many people experience. Like, it should not be the norm. And unfortunately, what I'm seeing is that it is often the norm for a lot of business owners. It's kind of that state of overwhelm just seems to be an accepted part of building a business and being an entrepreneur. And I want to tell you that that does not need to be the case. It should not be the case. And you're always going to have little seasons maybe where you do feel overwhelmed, where you're learning to manage that. But if it's a nonstop feeling of overwhelm long term, like that can be really detrimental to you, to your business, to your health. And so we really want to talk about that today. So before we even dive into what we're going to do about it, I just want to make sure that we're clearly defined on what feeling overwhelmed actually means. Because for some people listening, like maybe your version of feeling overwhelmed is very different. So I thought we'll just define what that means in the context of being a jewelry business owner, of running a jewelry business. And then we'll talk a little bit about some of the triggers that really kind of cause that overwhelm. So, when it comes to actually that feeling of overwhelm, there's a lot here that we can talk about. But essentially, overwhelm is going to. Okay, so essentially, when we're talking about overwhelm as a jewelry business owner, we're referring to that state of feeling excessively burdened or stressed out due to all the tasks that you have to do, all the responsibilities you have, all the challenges that are associated with those responsibilities, which can feel like a lot. And so it's the burden and stress associated with operating and managing your business as a jewelry business owner. You guys know you have to wear so many hats depending on the size of your team. But startups, when you're building a startup, you have to do a lot of things. You have a lot of different roles. So these feelings of stress and overwhelm and feeling burdened can come from so many different places. They can come from just the creative demands that a jewelry business places on you if you are designing and creating your own jewelry. Even if you're not designing, even if you're just purchasing wholesale, there is a creative part of that process of developing your collections, of naming your collections, of creating meaning around the pieces. And there is an element of requiring continuous innovation and creativity, and there's attention to detail and all those little aspects of developing a collection, developing a brand. And so that creative demand is big, and it's something that if you have not set your business up in a way that you don't have to constantly be creating, it will take its toll on you over time. And so that's something just to keep in mind. And it's so easy for jewelry business owners to just feel overwhelmed when trying to balance the demands of like maintaining a unique aesthetic with their designs, maintaining the new pieces that their customers have maybe got used to every couple of weeks when you do launches. I'll do a whole other episode on that. And then also just making sure that you kind of you're continuing to grow and you're continuing to bring back repeat customers through your pieces. So the creative demands of that can definitely cause overwhelm, even if you're an artist. I'd almost say, especially if you're an artist, especially if you're creating and designing your pieces. Like, design requires so much energy. And yes, you get into those states of flow. But when you start building a business and you start earning money for that, if you haven't structured it in a way that supports you and your energies best, what can happen is you get into this place where you're forcing the flow of creativity. And that is not a fun place to be. That feels overwhelming. Now, the other part of the tasks that can cause overwhelm are those operational tasks, just the day-to-day things of running your jewelry business. It can be anything from sourcing materials, managing your inventory, handling logistics, fulfilling orders, those day-to-day responsibilities that are so basic, really. They're really simple, easy, straightforward tasks on one level. But they can become overwhelming when you're a one-man show doing everything, wearing all the hats, and you don't have a support system. You don't have a kind of structure to your day. And it's interesting because I was talking to one of my clients yesterday, actually, and I get my clients to do time audits. So I can actually see where their time's going and we can optimize their day, optimize what they're working on, optimize where they're spending their time and energy and money and all those fun things. And I looked at her time audit and I was immediately like, ooh, yeah. Like the way her week was structured was not optimizing her time and energy. And so she was actually wasting a ton of time and energy. We flipped things around really, really quickly. But it's little things like, you shouldn't be doing tasks that need to be done once a month, every 2 or 3 days. You shouldn't be running errands 5 days a week. Like, errands take so much time. And it's looking at like all those operational tasks and how can we streamline, how can we optimize them? Because let's be real, I don't think any of you got into building your jewelry business because you were super excited about the operational tasks in your business. Maybe some of you, but most of you, I don't think that was the draw. So you want that to be as streamlined as possible. And if you're listening to this and you've ever got orders and you physically feel like, I don't know how I'm going to make these. I don't know how I'm going to get these out. I'm like dreading getting orders because I've been there. I was there in the past. I remember getting to a place where I just was like, please don't place an order. Please don't place any more orders. Like, I just can't cope at one stage. And it was because I hadn't streamlined at that stage. And if you're in a place where you're dreading getting orders in your business, that's a huge problem. That's something to look at. And that does cause that feeling of overwhelm as well. Now, when it comes to marketing and sales, like, this is huge because you guys know that marketing is 80% of like key to success in business. Like, marketing is huge. Like, if people don't know about you, if they don't know about your brand, if they don't know about your jewelry, if they don't care about you, you're going to have a hard time making sales. You're going to have a hard time building a sustainable business. The reality is, your business requires you to be well known. And to do that, you have to market yourself. You have to put yourself out there. You have to do that consistently, strategically, intentionally, and over time. That is what builds a community. That's what drives awareness to your brand. That's what gets people feeling connected to you and connected to your business. And it is one of the most important parts of your business because without it, you don't really have any customers. But that constant like promoting and selling, it does require strategic marketing efforts. It does require you being really intentional with your content. I've spoken about this before, but posting content versus content marketing are two completely different things. And so it takes looking at all these different components, making sure we're building our relationships up with our customers. If you're doing wholesale, making sure you're building relationships with your wholesale accounts. managing your campaigns, looking at like what your marketing strategy is each month, if you're changing things up, if you're doing launches. So all of these things layered on top of each other can again lead to overwhelm if you're doing everything on your own or you have a small team of like 3 to 5 people. Because, hey, I know the reality of building a team is that you just bring on new problems. Different problems, but new problems and better problems sometimes. But again, even if you have a team, it can feel overwhelming getting all those things done because it's about how you've optimized each member of that team for each role that they're doing. And there's so many different factors that play into that. And then I think probably a couple of you are going to relate to this, but the other thing that really contributes to these feelings of overwhelm as a jewelry business is financial pressures. And we don't typically like to talk about money, but the reality is money does make the world go round at a certain level. Money is super important. And financial pressures are typically the first thing that I see that causes those feelings of overwhelm. Financial pressures in any area of your life is actually going to be, in my opinion, like one of the biggest problems. Think of even in relationships, if you have financial pressure in relationships, that is usually the first thing to start causing a lot of tension, anxiety, overwhelm, all of that. Same in your business. Financial pressures are not fun. They can definitely feel like they stack up if you're just in a tough season of life or in business. And balancing your finances, doing your budgeting, pricing your pieces, increasing prices as the cost of materials increases, sending invoices to like wholesale accounts you haven't paid yet, managing your flow of cash when you're purchasing inventory and booking events and updating your website or whatever you're doing. Those things are all incredibly crucial to your jewelry business. They are incredibly crucial, especially if you're wanting to build a sustainable business that is profitable, that you can actually pay yourself. But the reality is, like, it's a lot to manage, it's a lot to handle. And financial stress, when you have months that are slow, months that are like not as good as you anticipated, when maybe you launch a new piece and you just don't see the response and you've overinvested in inventory, when maybe your tools break and you have to replace them, or your laptop breaks and you have to replace that, these unexpected expenses can definitely impact how you're feeling, and they can definitely lead to those feelings of overwhelm and anxiety. And then if we stack on top of that time constraints, which I know for so many of you, I mean, the reality of the world we're living in is we just have very limited time, and time's that one resource that we will never get back. And a lot of jewelry business owners often face time constraints, deadlines, when it comes to getting orders out the door, when it comes to designing new collections, when it comes to participating in pop-ups and events, getting their wholesale catalogs out to retail stores before like the deadlines. There's so many different things that are tied to time constraints in business. And when you're trying to juggle multiple tasks and you have a limited time frame, it can definitely contribute to a sense of overwhelm. And I'm actually just thinking of another client of mine who I was chatting to the other day, who was also feeling overwhelmed because she is traveling for a month, she's going away for a month, and she had like 2 weeks to get everything done. And she had so many key things, super important, super crucial things that are going to move the needle in her business that she needed to get done in those 2 weeks. And she had very, very limited time because she was also still in a full-time job. She hasn't left her job just yet because she's in the early stages of business. And it was one of those things, well, of course you're going to feel overwhelmed when you have all these things. You have the time pressure added onto it. You have the financial pressure added onto it. And that's where we want to be really intentional with like, okay, we feel overwhelmed now, but it doesn't have to be that way. Let's get some clarity here. Let's get some focus. Let's decide our priorities and we'll take it from there. And that's what we did. And that is so important when you are feeling overwhelmed. But, overall, before we dive into the rest of this, I just want to say that when you're feeling overwhelmed as a jewelry business owner, There's also that emotional and psychological burden of just managing all these different aspects of your jewelry business. So that includes the creativity side of it, the operations, the marketing, the sales, the financial side. And when you have limited time and limited energy, I know a lot of people listening to this have limited energy. You have chronic, like we have a lot of people with chronic illnesses as well, which is potentially why I think a lot of people are drawn to building a jewelry business, because you can go a bit more with the flow and go with your energy and tune in, but it does require more strategy, more intention, and just being very intentional with how you're spending your time so that you can navigate the challenges which are inevitable of entrepreneurship in the best way possible. So I want to talk a little bit about the impact that feelings of overwhelm have on you and your business. So obviously, this is going to impact your productivity, it's going to impact your creativity, and it's going to impact your overall well-being. So I want you to sit back for a moment and just check in with yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being I'm having a meltdown, can't get out of bed, completely overwhelmed, and 10 being I am thriving, I'm energized, I don't feel overwhelmed at all, I'm getting things done, I feel in flow. What would you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10? How overwhelmed are you? Go ahead and jot that down. And if you need a couple of seconds to think that through, you can pause this before we go on. But get a little, let's take a temperature of where you're at right now in terms of feeling overwhelmed when it comes to your business and life. And let's just do a little temperature test. Then what I would love for you to do is let's just look at where do you think that's coming from? So do you think write out all the ways, list out every possible place that overwhelm is coming from? Is it because you have limited time? Is it because you're struggling with all the marketing tasks or all the revenue driving tasks, or you can't keep up with orders, or you're struggling to manage your team? Write out everything, every single thing that you think is contributing to this overwhelm. Then I want you to write out how you're feeling, how that overwhelm with all these tasks is actually impacting your business. And let's look at how it's impacting your business. Let's look at how it's impacting you, because the reality is, we've spoken about this earlier, it's going to impact your productivity, your creativity, and your overall well-being. And so when it comes to productivity, for example, I think it's very clear, but I do want to just talk about this because what I've seen is that when you are feeling overwhelmed in life, in business, a lot of guilt comes up, because typically for a lot of people, it causes them to shut down and just, instead of being able to work through things carefully and get things done, it actually stops them from doing anything. So it decreases their focus, decreases their concentration, and significantly reduces their productivity, which causes even more anxiety and even more feelings of overwhelm. And if you are constantly jumping from task to task and you're working through things in a very fragmented way, you are going to be, number one, even slower, and number two, even more overwhelmed. Because, it takes a while for us to settle into certain tasks. I always like to break my clients' tasks into deep work tasks and easy and boring tasks and fun and creative tasks and emotional tasks. And the reality is, if you're jumping between all these tasks, and not quite finishing things and then going back, you're going to be a hot mess. There's no way around this. It's going to feel like a hot mess. So we definitely want to look at that. These feelings of overwhelm are also going to potentially lead to feelings of paralysis or indecision and procrastination. And it's going to cause you to really procrastinate on taking action on the crucial tasks that you need to be doing. And that delay in taking action, that sitting in that place of indecision, oh my gosh, I can't tell you guys how this is the absolute worst feeling in the world. That place of making decisions kills most businesses. That is literally the number one killer of most businesses, is that place of sitting in indecision and inaction on whatever it is that you need to be doing. Whether it's like actually launching your website, launching your collection, telling people about your brand, doing that collab that you're feeling scared of doing, reaching out to stores, signing up for events in time, like whatever it is, getting support, whatever it is that you're needing at certain stages. If you sit in indecision and inaction, it's way worse than making the wrong decision. Like the cost of that is significantly higher than making the wrong decision. And that's the reality. But people are so, and it's normal, our biology is wired to keep us safe, but we're so committed to like keeping ourselves safe that we don't even see the cost of that. And we allow ourselves sometimes, not intentionally, but we do just sit in that place of indecision, inaction, procrastination for hours and then days and weeks, and some people even months. And I have even met some who literally will be in this place for years. And it's not a fun place to be. All it does is increases your stress and it lowers your confidence significantly. Like significantly. There is nothing that's going to have such a big impact on your confidence than sitting in that place of in between, rather than even making the wrong decision, pivoting and doing what you can. Like it is going to impact your confidence big time. So we want to stay aware of that, and even think to yourself now, like, are there decisions that I know are going to move the needle in my business, that I know are going to move me closer to my dreams, that I know have been on my to-do list for the past like 3 or 6 months and I just haven't got around to them? Why aren't we getting around to them? Well, I can tell you why. Because it's hard to be self-motivated all the time. It's hard to make all the decisions all the time. And it's hard when you don't have a team or a manager or somebody to like go back and forth with over these things and just be like, oh yeah, you know what, this is the right decision, or oh yeah, let's do this. And that's what I found as well when I was a jewelry designer. Is I was like, I had to make all the decisions all the time, and there's an element of that that is so fun, and there's an element of that that is so lonely and so, oh, it's so tough. It's so tough. And so if you're in that place right now and you're realizing like, oh goodness, I am stuck in that place of indecision and inaction. I need to shift. I need to make a move here. I need to like get the ball rolling, but I'm feeling like I'm lacking confidence. The more I'm waiting and holding back, the more fears coming up. Like I want to encourage you to write out what one thing, just one thing that you know you need to do, that you know is going to move the needle in your business, that you know is going to impact your business in, maybe you make a mistake, but hopefully you don't. Write that down and then go do that today. And if you're listening to this at night, go do that tomorrow. And then let me know. Send me a DM. I'm on Instagram at Robin Clark Coaching. Like, let me know when you've actually done that, because that's what people need. Is you need accountability to actually take action on these scary things. And it's one of the things that we heavily focus on in the Jewelry Business Academy, because I know how hard it is to, as somebody who's like extremely self-motivated, I struggled when I was all alone building this business on my own many years ago. Um, and I just didn't have other people to talk to about things, to run ideas by, to run decisions by. And it was incredibly lonely. It was incredibly tough. And I did waste a ton of time not doing what was required because I was stuck in that place of indecision and inaction. And the longer I stuck there, the more the fear grew, the more my confidence fell and plummeted essentially. And that just has so many consequences. So do write that out, go do it. Let me know when you've done it. If you don't have a community around yourself, if you don't have a support system, if you are really lacking confidence in your abilities right now, if you're needing support, or maybe you're doing great, but you still have those moments of overwhelm and you would like to move through them so much faster, and have my support along the way. I'm just going to let you guys know now, we're not even halfway through this episode, but if that is resonating with any of you, I do want to let you know, like, come and join us in the Jewelry Business Academy. It is the most expansive container, and you will literally have access to me every single day. It's going to be a lot. So we're not going to let you hang around in that place of overwhelm very long. We're going to get structure into your business. We're going to implement strategies that are already intentional, that are proven to actually grow your business in the lowest effort way possible, because I'm all about working smart, not hard. So if you want to come join us, you can go to jewelrybusinessacademy.ca and book in a call with one of my team, and I'll see you on the other side. But I do want to talk a little bit more about the impact that overwhelm has, because we've talked about how it causes procrastination, how it decreases your focus and your concentration. But what it also does is it causes creative blocks, where it actually like stops you being able to be creative, to design new pieces. And when you're a designer, when you're an artist and you can't even think of designs and you don't even have that creative flow, you're not coming up with new ideas, you're not feeling inspired, that causes that sense of stagnation, that causes you to feel stuck. And honestly, I don't want to oversimplify this, but when you feel stuck in life or business for a prolonged period of time, it causes depression, severe depression. There is nothing worse than feeling stagnant in life or in business. Nothing worse. Like, it is a very hard place to be. So that's something to keep in mind. If you're struggling with like creative blocks, like maybe you're feeling overwhelmed, maybe there's just too much going on, and we need to look at like, what can we cut here? Where can we simplify? Where can we streamline? How can we shift your week around, your day around? How can we make sure you're getting the key tasks done in the most efficient way possible, and then moving on to the other tasks, and like really simplify your business so much more, so you can have, I always like to say, blank space. You need blank space in your calendar if you're an artist. It's essential to the creative process. It's not an option. You have to have that blank space. So we have to set up your business so that you do have that blank space to be creative. And yeah, when you are feeling overwhelmed, the one other thing that's going to happen, and maybe some of you will resonate with this where you're at right now, but it will discourage you from experimenting, from trying new things, from taking risks. Because when you're feeling overwhelmed, your fear is so high, you kind of get hijacked by fear essentially. And so your body's in survival mode. It's going to do everything it can to keep itself safe and comfortable. And the reality is, safe and comfortable, there's no growth there. There's no growth there. And it will actually cause stress, because when we say safe and comfortable, we're not actually saying safe and comfortable as in making lots more money. We're saying, your body's saying like, I'm going to keep us exactly in the pain that we're feeling right now, because at least I know what this pain is like, versus an unknown feeling, whether it's good or bad. So keep that in mind. Make sure you're not allowing yourself to get hijacked by fear. I've been there before. It's really hard to shift out of it. And the good news is, the more you just start leaning into the fear and being like, okay, this is scary. Okay, this is so uncomfortable. Okay, I'm hating this right now. But like, let's lean into it. Let's just see life as a bit of a game. Let's see business as a bit of a game and lean into it. The more you start doing that, and then you realize like, oh, I'm still alive. I'm still here. I did this big scary thing and I'm still here. I made this big investment. I made this big decision. I did these little things that felt so like uncomfortable, unaligned because of the fear that I was bringing up. But actually, I survived. I'm actually doing better. That's going to build your confidence. And so I would love for you to write out, what is one thing that is bringing a lot of fear in your business right now? What is one decision you know you need to make that is bringing up a lot of fear, that is bringing up that like indecision? Write that out and also go and take action on that tomorrow. We'll give you a day between all these action taking items. Now, what's going to happen when you are feeling overwhelmed over a period of time? Like over time, that's when, and this gets really dangerous. It's one thing if you have like moments of overwhelm, because that's the human experience. That's natural. We have to then like regulate and work out what's going on and fix things and change things. We can work with that. If you are feeling chronically overwhelmed, it's going to make you feel less excited about your business. It's going to kind of dampen that passion that you had initially for building your business. It's going to take away from the joy. It's going to take away from the excitement. And that's going to lead to burnout. And that's not what we want. You know, a lot of you, I think, left the corporate world so that you could live a life doing what brings you joy, what brings you fulfillment, what lights your soul on fire. And we don't want that thing to become another thing that leads you to burnout. We want that thing to be the thing that continues to fuel that fire within you and continues to bring you joy and excitement. Yes, there's work behind that, but there's a difference between working on things and feeling excited about them versus working and feeling like you are hitting rock bottom. And that kind of leads me to your overall well-being, because that increased stress and anxiety when you're feeling overwhelmed is going to take a huge toll on your mental and your emotional well-being. And so when we combine all of this with like probably sleepless nights, probably like being irritable, all these different things, it can manifest as headaches, it can manifest as muscle tension, fatigue, sleep disturbances, and like on top of that, these things can lead to chronic illnesses. Like it's not something to mess around with. Like stress and anxiety is not something to play around with. It's not just a little symptom. It's things that over the long term can cause illnesses within your body. So it's not something to just be like accepting of. It's not something to be like, well, this is life. This is just how it's going to be. And in saying that as well, I do want to say when it comes to stress, one of the other things that you can do is just increase your tolerance for stress, which is something I've done. And, you know, things that would have broken me, literally broken me for like weeks in the past, many years ago. Like, I just look at it and I'm like, oh, okay, this happened. That's unfortunate. And I move on and I forget about it and I just do what's required. And I've just increased my tolerance for stress. And I think some of you, like, think about a business owner that you really admire. Think about that person. I know for me, like the people I admire in business, they are hitting huge goals in their business. But every time I talk to them, every time I'm around them, they have this calm, grounded energy. They are relaxed. They are just like going with the flow. They are not rushing. They are not panicking. There's no anxiety. There's no stress. And the problems that they are dealing with are 10 times the problems that I deal with on a daily basis. And so you want to look at like, okay, how can we kind of lean into this and increase our tolerance for stress as well? Because that does have an impact on how you feel. And I always think to myself, you know, I'm building within me the ability to deal with high levels of stress and not let it impact my day and how I feel and how I engage with other people for the rest of the day. Because there's nothing worse than somebody who's building a business. And actually, I'll say I see this quite a bit. And this is something just to be aware of for everyone, actually, is if you are building your jewelry business and you're building it from home and maybe you have a partner or a family and you allow yourself to sit in that place of overwhelm and you build too much anxiety and stress and you go and you're always irritable around your family, you're always stressed around them, you're always snappy around them, that is not a great place to be. That's not a nice way to build your business for you or for them. And it doesn't have to be that way. There's literally no problems in your business that should result in you acting that way at all. And so it comes back to like being really intentional with the type of person that you want to become as you build this business. And I did a whole episode on this actually. Like my favorite part of building a business and building a jewelry business in particular is the version of you, the person that you become along the way. And you get to choose that. You get to be really intentional about that. Like, who is this version of me I'm becoming? What does this version of me look like? How does this version of me deal with stress? How does this version of me deal with a lot going on? What decisions does this version of me make? What investments does this version of me make? What type of team members does this version of me hire? How does this version of me interact with my friends and with my family and with my customers? How does this version of me speak to myself? Like, that's something to consider. And if you still have your journals up, write that down. Take a few minutes to like get clear on like the version of you that you are right now, which we always want to be grateful for where we are right now. But where's the gap between the version of you that you are right now and the version of you that you know you have potential to be? Because we all know we have a lot of potential. It's whether we actually ever reach our potential while we're alive, which, yeah, I know it's a little heavy. I'll do another episode on this, but it's definitely something to think about. Now, the other thing that will also happen with overwhelm is it can impair your decision making. So, what it actually does is it impairs your cognitive function, which makes it difficult to make clear and rational decisions. It forces people to make emotional decisions, which is not a way to run a business. You don't want to be making decisions from a place of panic and anxiety and trying to keep yourself safe. You're not going to get anywhere. You want to look at the facts of what do I need? What do I need to do? And I'm going to go do it. Because that's how you're going to actually see growth in your business. So you need to, that overwhelm is going to impair your ability to make good decisions. So it's also going to make it hard to prioritize tasks. Like even a simple list of 10 tasks, like it can make it feel so hard to actually break that down and be like, okay, what do I do first? Where do I start here? And if you're somebody listening to this who has a massive list and you're like feeling that way, here's what I recommend. Go and put in brackets next to all the tasks how long they're actually going to take: 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 10 minutes, 1 hour. What is the time? Because we often see a task and we think it's going to be like, oh, such a big task. I always like to use the dishwasher as an example for this because I don't know what it is, but like I always feel like unpacking the dishwasher is like a 25-minute task. But if you time yourself, it only takes 2 minutes. And so it's one of those tasks that I do every morning while I'm making my tea, because it literally, while the kettle's boiling, I unpack the dishwasher. And it's like one of those tasks that could feel like a 30-minute task, but it only takes 2 minutes. Same in your business. I can't tell you how many tasks you have that are such quick, easy tasks, like posting to Instagram. It's like a 7-minute task. Some people spend 3 hours a day on this. I don't know how, I don't know why. But like everybody has the ability to get the key revenue driving tasks done in your business, whether you have 30 minutes a day to work on your business or 8 hours a day to work on your business. And I actually have clients, I'm thinking of one in particular. She's a mom of 2. She has between like 30 minutes and sometimes 45 minutes a day to work on her business. But it's not even in like a 30-minute place. Like it's not even like that. It would be like 7 minutes at breakfast and 5 minutes at this point and a few minutes at the kids drop off. It's broken up throughout her day, and she gets so much done in that time because we've prioritized what are the key tasks you need to do, how do you do those most effectively, and she gets those done every single day. And so if you're listening to this and you're like, yeah, but Robin, you don't get it, I have no time and I have all this going on. I do get it. It is hard, but it just requires being more intentional. And it is possible. There are lots of people doing it. And so I would start there, look at your tasks, put the time next to them, then work out what's urgent. And we're going to go into that in a few minutes. Actually, I don't want to dive ahead. And we'll come back to this list. But yeah, if you can just recognize like where you're feeling, if you're feeling overwhelmed, and if you are, then we need to start implementing strategies to, number 1, manage your stress really effectively. And then number 2, actually like deal with this so you don't like all these systems, all these tasks you need to do aren't causing as much overwhelm. Like we don't want you to be working from that place. So, and I can just tell you guys, like I'll give you a personal example because right now, I'm just going through a season of intentional imbalance in life and business. Like, it's just the reality of it. I know some people aren't going to like hearing this, but I've been very intentional with deciding for this period of time, I am going to embrace intentional imbalance and I am going to work a lot. Like a lot, like a lot more than a lot of people will be comfortable with. And like, you can hear me. I'm not stressed. I'm not anxious. I feel so lit up. I feel so calm. I feel so grounded. I feel so aligned. And my to-do list is absolutely insane. And I worked all weekend and I work every single day. And it's just the season of life I'm going through. But I am, number one, doing work that's very aligned with what I believe I was put on this earth to do. And number two, I've built a high tolerance for stress. So I actually don't feel stressed. And number three, I am just I know how to structure my week so that I have restorative practices every single day throughout my day to keep bringing me back to a place of feeling grounded and energized, because I never want to finish a day feeling wiped out. I never want to finish a day feeling overwhelmed. It's taken years to develop these practices and incorporate them naturally throughout my day, even when I'm working at such an intense pace and getting so much done and moving the needle so much. And so I want to encourage you to do the same. So, think about your own experiences of feeling overwhelmed, and let's identify 1 to 3 specific areas or specific tasks that are really contributing to those elements of stress. Like, think about what that is. And then I would love for you to actually, I'll just give you a couple of journaling prompts to help you along there. So, list out 3 key tasks in your business that are currently feeling overwhelming to you in your jewelry business. Like, what are those tasks? And write those out. You can pause this if you need to. And then I want you to do the same for just your personal life. Like, what are 3 elements of my personal life that are currently feeling overwhelming to me? What is contributing to this overwhelm? Because we also want to identify that maybe it's making food every day. Maybe it's cleaning your house. Maybe it's like managing your kids. Like, let's try to identify what it is. Because once we identify things, we can actually work to solve them. If we don't identify them, there's nothing we can do. I also want you to kind of think about, are there any reoccurring patterns or sources of this overwhelm? Is there somebody in your life that's causing a lot of overwhelm? Are there specific reoccurring tasks in your business that cause overwhelm? Like, maybe it's content. Maybe for you, it's content. Maybe content is just a nightmare. You are consistent, you're posting every day, you're not seeing a return, you're spending 2 hours a day on posting. I don't know what you're doing. And it's causing overwhelm because it's causing resentment and it's causing anxiety. Like, maybe that's you. And if that's the case, like, write that out. Let's get clear on, like, if there's any pattern that every time I do these tasks, this shows up. Every time I'm around this person, this shows up. Every time I'm planning for this shows up. Let's have a look and see, like, if there's any patterns there. And then what I want you to do is write out, like, okay, we've identified what's causing the overwhelm. And then I want you to write 1 to 3 things that you're committed to doing to change that. And it will depend situation by situation on what you're going to actually do in those situations to move that forward. And you can definitely implement some of the things we've talked about today as well. So one other thing I'd highly recommend is do a time audit. Like, write out what you do every minute of every day for a week and don't miss anything. Put your grocery store visits, put your walks, put your scrolling Instagram, write that all out. And I'm pretty sure as soon as you look at that, you're going to identify exactly why you're feeling overwhelmed. It is the easiest way to identify those feelings of overwhelm. Do a time audit. And most of you listening to this won't do that because I don't know what it is. People hate doing time audits, and it's the easiest thing to do. And within 1 to 2 days, you'll be able to identify, oh my gosh, need to fix this, need to make this happen, need to stop doing this, need to do this more. And those little things can have such a huge impact on how you feel on a day-to-day basis and how you work through things in your business and all of that. So, okay, I need a sip of tea because this has been a little longer than I planned, but it's interesting. I always like to keep these a little shorter and sweeter so you can, like, have bite-sized nuggets, but this one kind of is just coming to me. So we're going a little deeper. And I want to talk about, what we can actually do, like techniques and strategies you can implement to manage overwhelm, specifically as a jewelry business owner. So the first thing is we want to look at all your time management techniques. So we want to practice prioritizing your tasks based on if they're urgent and based on how important they are. So there's a lot of different ways to do this, but keep it simple. What I found is that the more simple your processes are, the more simple everything is that you do in your business, the more likely you are to do it. So keep it simple. Like look at what's urgent, what has to be done, what is important but doesn't have to be done right now. And then go through your list, write numbers next to each task and move them around and plan out your next week of tasks so that you know you're going to get the things done, but they're done in the order of urgency and prioritization. The next thing I recommend is like start batching certain tasks, like email marketing. Batch your emails for the month. Batch now content. I don't personally recommend batching unless you're an established business owner who's really found their voice, but batch things like emails, batch things like making and shipping your orders, like have specific time blocks for certain tasks and get those done in the morning because we're so much, generally, most of us are much better at working and getting things done in the morning. So make sure you're batching as much as possible to minimize the switching between tasks, which if you have ADHD is just going to be a hot mess for you. So we want to limit switching between tasks to improve our efficiency. Now, boundaries is another one. This is huge. So, when it comes to boundaries with your customers and how they reach out to you, especially if you do custom work, that's really key. Make sure they are very aware of your expectations in terms of response time, your availability, how many like versions of reviews and revisions you'll be doing with them, and the timelines for their pieces. If you have a team, make sure you're very clear on boundaries and expectations for your team. A lot of stress from having a team comes from not being clear on your expectations of them. It's just simple communication, which a lot of people struggle with. And so making sure you've set out like, here's what is expected. Here's how we measure if you're doing a good job or not. Here's what we'll do if you're struggling. Here's when we're checking in. Here's like the structure of your role and your responsibility and what we're expecting from you. Delegating tasks is another thing you can do. So you can be like, you know what? This is not in my wheelhouse. This is not something I need to be doing. So let's outsource or let's hire a team member for this and let's start delegating things that you don't need to be doing. A lot of us hold on tightly onto non-core tasks that we don't have to be doing. There are certain tasks you absolutely have to do in your business, and I don't recommend anyone else does it. But there's also certain tasks that you can outsource. Bookkeeping. No jewelry business owner should be doing their own bookkeeping. It is a waste of your time, energy, and money. And if you can't afford a bookkeeper, you need to learn how to sell. Because bookkeeping isn't a big expense. And it's not worth you spending several hours a month on your bookkeeping. I'd rather you spent those several hours on marketing and made more money in your business. I'll just be honest with you. Things like customer service, it really depends on the level of jewelry. If you're doing custom work, maybe you need to be involved. But if you're not doing custom work, you don't need to be doing customer service. When it comes to Instagram, that's where I actually don't recommend outsourcing. That's a big mistake a lot of brands make is they outsource their social media because it feels easy and it's like, I'll throw money here and it will just like take the stress away. It doesn't. It doesn't. You can try it out if you want to, but unfortunately, it just doesn't work that way anymore. The way Instagram has changed, the algorithms changed, the way people shop has changed. So that's the one task I don't recommend delegating. I recommend delegating other things so you have more headspace, time, and energy to focus on the key revenue driving tasks and actually can do them properly. I also want to encourage you to incorporate self-care practices. I touched on this earlier, but I do restorative practices every single day. And if I didn't, I would definitely be a hot mess. So, like today, I've been to the gym, I did weights, I went in the sauna for 20 minutes. I will go for a walk later. I'll probably do something else later. And these are just like little, I like to call them like snacks throughout the day, like little self care snacks throughout the day. It makes a huge difference because by the end of the day, I mean, I'll be working till 9 p.m. tonight. I'll be coaching till 9 p.m. And I will finish the day and yeah, I'll be tired, but I'm not going to be wiped out. Like, that's not how I'm okay ending my day. So I'm really intentional with how I structure my day, how I incorporate self care practices into my day to rest and recharge and re energize, even if it's just 2 minutes of like jumping around. Because to me, like I am the most important part of my business, and so are you. You're the most important part of your business. So you need to prioritize yourself and your energy is like your fuel. It's the most important thing that you can invest in. So make sure you're doing that. And then, yeah, getting outside, getting sunshine, those little things that feel so like not essential, they're essential. Like they're essential. Doing meditations is really helpful. I will be honest, I struggle with seated meditation, but walking meditation I can do. Yoga, I love. Pilates, I love. Stretching, I love. There's honestly so many different things that you can do. You can also make sure that you're using as many automations and tools in your business as possible to really streamline repetitive tasks like inventory management, email marketing, order processing. Like all of that should be automated as much as possible. And you want to simplify your business. Like a jewelry business shouldn't be super complicated. It doesn't matter if you're making your first 50,000 or first 700,000. At its core, these businesses aren't super complex. People make them complex. But there's key things you need to be doing. There's key automations you need in your business. And you can structure it in a way that you don't have to deal with those feelings of overwhelm, even when you're busy, even when you're growing, even when you have a lot going on. It doesn't have to both be true. So, two things don't have to be true at the same time. So, you can be very busy. You can be making a lot more orders than you are right now and have a lot more going on and be not feeling overwhelmed. And I think that's where some people get caught up. They think, oh, if I'm feeling overwhelmed where I'm at in my business right now, what chance do I stand if I grow my business? I'm already overwhelmed. And that's just not the case. Like there are so many so many things you can do to actually grow your business in a way that you don't feel overwhelmed. And often I actually find it's easier when you hit certain milestones in your business to step away and have even more time and energy and headspace to yourself. So growing your business, moving it closer to your goals can actually significantly impact your overwhelm and take away from that. So you feel more energized, you feel more excited about your business again, you feel more confident, even though you have a lot going on, even though you're navigating different challenges. So I'm going to leave it there because I'm losing my voice. But this has been so much fun, guys. Thanks for staying till the very end. Let me know if you enjoyed this episode. Let me know if you actually take action on the things we chatted about today. Send me a message on Instagram or snap a photo and tag me. It is Robin Cloud Coaching. And I am looking forward to chatting with you guys next week.